You need it.
Hello, it's Viking Gaming, Rock, however you may know me. I am here to make pie. Just like the song goes, something about American Pie. Now I know, you may be thinking, but you're a YouTuber. Yeah, I mostly play games, you don't do baking. I'll have you know that both of my parents are journeyman bakers. You could give them a piece of dough that's the size of a fist. They could make enough bread to feed an entire town. That is what a journeyman baker is. And I am here today to make a pie so legendary, so high tier, that if Jesus touched it, he couldn't make it better. That is what I am here today to create. Now, I do have someone who's much more experienced in making pies and sweet things. Kat, if you could not, please. Thank you very much. Here to join me on this magical adventure. What would you like to be known as here?
Mom.
Fair enough. Yes, that. Journeyman baker and overall person who everyone goes to their problems because everyone loves to bug her. She's known as Ina. And when I mess up, and I most likely will because I'm a failure at everything, she's going to tell me when I mess up and how badly I did it, which is probably going to be very badly. Is that undoing? This camera setup is very ghetto, so if everything goes horribly, we all know why.
It'll work.
I mean, it doesn't have to look pretty, it just has to work. I mean, that's one of the mottos I always use on my channel, so,
But you've peeled part of your apples, so you gotta peel your last one.
I saved the last apple peeling because, you know, the channel probably wants to see it, and you always have that one butthurt baby that's like, I wanted to see at least one apple get peeled. So, don't worry. I've already washed all the apples, keep in mind. So, I'm just using normal green Granny Smith apples. You know, just cutting very lightly on the skin. Because you gotta save the meat for the pie. Unless you like the skin in the pie, which would just be weird. Are you people weird? I don't know. You're probably weird if you're watching my channel. Oh, Lord. I wouldn't watch my channel. Ugh, I don't really... I'd mostly use YouTube for music. But... yeah, no.
Tell them it's an old family recipe.
Oh, yeah. I probably should have mentioned that, yeah. So, as master baker, chef, and probably the mother of Gordon Ramsay, as she just mentioned, this is an old family recipe of mine. Now, I'm now turning into what I would like to call a Viking baker, probably. Which Vikings, to begin with, they didn't start as warriors. They were farmers, as everyone so mistakenly gets. And as the show Vikings pointed out, they don't have like spiky horned helmets and stuff. They don't have stuff like that. That's not Vikings, not real Vikings anyway. That's just someone's imagination that someone cooked up because they were like, Hollywood. You know what?
It's Hollywood.
Let's just put Viking spiky helmets on them because you know what? That's probably realistic. No, I refuse.
That's Hollywood.
Probably. Now, I bet a few of you who like baking yourselves will probably want to try this recipe out. Now, you're only going to get this here. It's probably the best pie recipe on the planet. There's only one better one that's in my family, but only the top tier bakers can use it. I'm not top tier. So, you're going to want half a cup sugar, half a cup of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, which I have over here on my right. Then I have a tablespoon of cinnamon. a fourth of ground sugar, and a fourth of ground nutmeg. And then I have, I forget the name of this off the bat, and already in this little shortening. Yes, right. Well, you see, Crisco shortening. Crisco, if any of your people who are, again, the law part of the company, don't assault me just because I said your name, Crisco. Listen, Crisco. Listen, Chris. I know. Just let it happen.
It's the best one out there. Okay, so
now
you're gonna have to do your apples first. Get them done.
Fair enough.
So you're gonna use your cutting board.
Okay.
Slice your apple in half. You're gonna core it.
This is a very small knife. Why must I use the small knife?
You don't have to.
See, I as a Viking, I have very large hands. So I have to use very large utensils. Just like I have a very large head. My head is massive. Bigger than an Asian's head, surprisingly. And I know. Asians have large heads. But you may be thinking, that's racist. I know it is. You're welcome. Fun fact about apple seeds, they have cyanide in them. So if you want to poison someone, I don't recommend doing that, by the way.
In the seed.
It's in the seed, yes. Now, if you didn't watch far enough and you just heard cyanide in apple and you didn't hear seed, well then you may be thinking, I've been eating apples my entire life and I'm not dead yet. You're retarded? Stop writing your comment right now. Get off my channel. Anyway. It's in the apple seeds. And if I wanted to, I could just grind up the apple seeds and put it in this pie and eat it and kill myself. But I don't want to die yet. You see, I have a bunch of people to enslave and countries to take over, so, I'm not done yet. I'd rather take over the planet. Now, no one knows where this ancient family recipe came from. It could have come back all the way from before humans were humans, or something like that. When we were souls floating in the midst of something that could be called existence. Before then, possibly. But you see, we won't know that yet.
I just know it came from my grandma, who was German.
Yes, it comes from some length of Germany or something like that. That core is out of the way. Apples are so sticky. But they're delicious.
You can tell Granny Smith apples are the best pie apples.
Well, they can probably hear you. If you want to lay down some apple facts, go for it.
Granny Smith apples are the best apples to bake with. They're really sour. You gotta add a ton of sugar, but they have the best texture.
Well, I can tell that just from cutting them. They feel like apples.
Funny.
Oh, look, a bit of cyanide probably. Oh, well, probably gonna die. Yippee.
Put it in your mouth.
Yep. Well, that's assuming I will have a mouth.
I'm sure they know you do.
I know. I could just have a gaping hole where my mouth could be.
Maybe.
Maybe I'm just a robot. Maybe I just have a vacuum hose instead of a mouth.
Could be. According to my food bill, you do.
Food bill, schmood bill. Well, anyway, Vikings eat a lot. So, have you ever seen a Viking banquet hall? No? That's because they don't exist anymore. Coring apples is more difficult than I thought it would be.
We'll cut them in half again, and that'll help.
I didn't think of that.
Well, it'll go faster if you do.
Well, I've already started going on this one, and there's no point in stopping in
I
halfway.
know, you gotta see it through.
You gotta see it through until the fat lady screams because I'm cutting her open. Right? That's how the saying goes.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone knows I'm not human at this point, so I mean, it's not much to hide. Squeaky apples. I guess squeaky apples could be considered happy apples, but then what are unsqueaky apples? Unhappy apples?
Yeah.
And what do you call an apple when it's angry?
Oh. Maybe that's where the rotten apple comes in.
You might be right, but I think that's just an evil apple. I know a few of you are seeing me wave around this knife like it's a piece of plastic or something. No, it's a real knife. I could stab myself.
That's why I'm way over here.
Yes, that's why she's way over there. And I'm over here, flailing the knife. Because I have no self-preservation, and I'm not quite stable in the mind. I know, if you're a psychologist watching this, you're probably like, someone call a doctor! This man's insane! I probably am. But I wouldn't try to stop me. I've got the strength of like 80 horsepower, something like that. I'd pick up your house and throw it at you. I mean, if we were to compare the strength of an average day male to that of like an old style Viking, I'm pretty sure that an old style Viking could pick up and quite literally throw him across the room. Would you agree?
Pretty tough guys.
They were. They were also one of the most feared warriors. They fought with reckless abandon. And a few of you who are quite illiterate out there, that means to fight with just, you fight like a crazy guy. You be crazier than the other guy is a Viking thing. Fight crazier than him. Rip hair. If he grabs you by the face, rip off your own face if you have to. That's what it means to be Viking. Which I am. So if you want to fight me, go ahead. But when I'm missing 2 arms and 3 legs, and the people are like concerned for my health, I'll be the one saying you should see the other guy. That reminds me of a joke. Did you hear about that goblin that had his left arm and left leg cut off? That's all right, because he's all right now.
It's funny.
It's one I should tell my sister. She'd probably like that one, since she's in the medical field. I'm sure she'd probably like to do that to a few of the people that she's worked with. From the stories that I hear. You'd think since these apples are sticky because of the juices inside of their apple bodies, that they would stick to your hands more. They're actually quite slippery. It's like trying to grab a piece of eggshell that fell into the egg white, because everyone, and I mean everyone unless you're some sort of queer, should know what that's like, right? Because like if a tiny piece of eggshell falls into the egg white, you're like, oh no, I gotta get it out. But then you try everything desperately to try to get it out, but you seem to can't. And it just your hands can't grab it, so then you result to something like a spoon, but the spoon can't grab. So then you're just sitting there toying with the egg basically until the point where you'll probably get salmonella. And then you're like, well, oh well, I guess I'm going to eat some eggshell. That reminds me of one time, I think it was my dad cooking something or somebody baking something. And a piece of eggshell got left in there. And then everyone was like, at that current time, we hope that you eat that one that gets the eggshell. And that person did. They did.
You were the lucky one.
They were the one. The one that left the eggshell in there got the eggshell. Now, if that's not God saying you should have taken the eggshell out, I don't know what is. I'm sure a few of you are like, wait, the Viking gamer, the heathenistic Viking, is a Christian? Yeah, I know, I am. I live in America. So you can shut your mouth or I'll cut out your tone. And if you live in America and say, well, I live in America too, I don't care. Just because you live in America doesn't make you an American. Don't like America, help you pack, man. Same thing, if you don't like Trump, I'll help you pack. I mean, he's doing great things. Oops. Done better than the past presidents. I know YouTube will probably try to get rid of me because I'm controversial. Well, guess what? I don't care. I do this for fun anyway. I don't even make any money. So, I mean, okay, now that the apples have been poured, all Master Senpai, Miss,
Now you gotta
Journey
slice
Figure.
them into slices.
How thin of slices? Super thin? Like paper thin?
No. Just into a bite size. Like, no, it's kind of thin. So you can go that thick. But I wouldn't go too much more than that because then it'll take forever to get done in the oven.
That does make logic sense.
Because you don't want your pie crust to burn.
I'm just gonna put the sliced apple pieces into this thing.
Well, I'll get you another bowl.
Well, do you want to get me the extra bowl while I'm cutting then?
Yeah.
So that way we keep a constant steady stream of go. You know what, guys? I think I'm gonna pause the video and then come back once I've got all the apples sliced, because this is probably gonna take a little bit, and I'm sure you guys don't want to sit there watch me slice apples for like hours or something like that. Alright, so I finished slicing the apples, and as you can see, they're all right there. Now, as the master over here had simply stated, we are going to do pie crust next. Because what do you have without what do you have when you don't have a pie crust but a pie filling? You don't have a pie, retard.
Okay, you want to open your flour.
Flour.
And I want you to put 2 cups of flour in there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, and then you're going to use it?
With what?
That, oh, here it is. And start mashing it together until it looks like,
Imagine this, but sharper and brass
Crumbly.
knuckles.
Yep. go in there and twist and work that shortening into the flour. Well, vice versa.
Or work the flour into the shortening.
Yeah.
I think it'll be easier to work the shortening into the flour, to be honest with you. How do I know when it's mixed?
I'll tell you, so that way you'll always know. You're going to have to work it for a little bit because you want to make it all crumbly.
It's already crumbly.
Yeah, it only kind of sticks together in little balls.
It's already doing that.
Yeah, I'll look at it in a second.
Oh, there's a big chunk on both sides. Something also about baking is I've baked things before this, and it's important to remember. Don't be afraid to get your hands dirty. You're gonna get your hands dirty. That's just something that's assured with baking.
Nothing mixes better than your hands most of the time.
Yeah, you're right about that. Nothing's a better mixer than your grabs, than your grab hands, than your meat hooks, than your claws.
Okay, add some more flour. A little bit more.
Another cup?
No, half of a cup.
So what's the objective of grinding this into the flour?
Because you're trying to get it all incorporated. Otherwise, you'll have little pockets of flour and then little pockets of just shortening. Who wants a mouthful of that?
Well, what's the point of shortening? See, if I feel like the viewers at home should be informed. If they don't know anything about baking or anything, and they might be a little bit slow in the head. So
Kind of hold it all together.
So shortening is like glue,
Well,
basically. It's the glue of baking.
in pie, if you're in your pie shell, it can be lots of different things whenever you're baking.
Now, I've seen many different people do many different ways to make the pie crust. Some people take it, they fold it over and put butter in between to make it flaky.
Well, you're going to have flaky by doing what you're doing.
And by doing what I'm doing, I don't have to thus do folds and butter and stuff.
On
So,
some stuff you might have to, like pastry and stuff, but
well,
not,
obviously pastry.
but not for this.
Not for this, okay. Well, then, basically, I'm already one step better than Markiplier.
Okay, so now you can take as much off of that as you can because you don't want to waste any of it.
Obviously, I gotta think about the Hungarian child that is slowly starving to death as we speak and could probably not feed even a mosquito.
And then you take it out and put it on. You'll dust a little bit of that wax paper with flour, like this.
Can I punch someone with this and will it kill them?
You don't need a whole bunch, but just a little. And then dump that on there and then form it into a ball.
The entire thing?
Yeah.
Ooh, a knife. I wonder if I can kill someone today.
It'll be kind of crumbly, but you're going to mix it all together. Oh, no. Put it back in the bowl. You're going to add one more thing. Sorry.
You're supposed to be the professional here.
I am. Okay, it's back in there.
So it's important to remember, guys, that all professionals make mistakes too.
I didn't make a mistake. I remember.
Yes, but it was a mistake and thus an extra step that needed to be taken.
It's alright. You're going to add water.
Do I need to punch it again?
Nope, use your hands.
To just mash it together?
Yep.
That's a feeling.
And if it's not...
Why does it feel like a brain? Why does it feel like I'm squeezing somebody's brain?
I don't know.
It feels like pizza dough from Little Caesars, but someone poured a bunch of water on it, and it's gross.
Okay, you can put it on there now and work it.
since I'm doing better than Markiplier and making pie, I'm going to add a tag, and it's just going to be hashtag better than Markiplier, and I'm going to call him out, and I'm going to get all the views for it too. I'll be like, I'm better than Markiplier. I might have an expert that's...
One time after this, you can do it on your own.
I mean, you are correct. But being an expert and master at baking is not just slamming something together shoddily like he did. I know, it may have been for a bit and a joke.
Chunks into it. You need to put more flour down if you can.
But
so it doesn't stick.
Just because it's a joke doesn't mean that it's fun. When someone who quite loves perfection and to be a perfectionist in almost everything I do, when I see something so raw and just crappy put together, it brings a solid stone tear to my eye. That's right, I have one eye.
Okay, I need to feel that dough. To see what it feels like.
It feels like your mom.
That feels nice. So then you're gonna get a knife and cut it in half. That feels really good.
I'm sure it would have felt...
So just remember how this feels like, because this is how you want your pie dough to feel like. You want it to be somewhat moist so you can work with it. You don't want it to be too dry, because then you can't roll it out and put it in your pie plate. So now you're going to cut it in half, because one's going to be the top crust and the other is going to be the bottom. And just set one aside. Okay, and then how much flour do you have down there?
Enough.
Well, you need it all around because you need a pie shell to fill that pie plate.
Now,
So,
do you recommend taking another sheet of wax paper and putting it over the top?
You can, or you don't have to. Some people do.
Also, some people just take the rolling pin and smack it with it.
So you want to do little rolls so you can get it into a round shape. So start rolling it, and I'll tell you when you got it thin enough. Just keep making it bigger and bigger. You might have to add more flour. Looks like you do. See when it starts to peel up like that?
Yeah, it reminds me of when we used to use the sheeter at Little Caesars. When it started to get like we would have to add flour to the dough before we put it through, because if we didn't, then it would just stick. Like if you put, it's really sticky. Like you just pick up a stick from outside, right off the tree, really sticky. You know, it's just not pleasant.
And I had put about 3/4 cup of water in with that when I added water.
Sorry, I didn't quite hear that well enough.
I added about 3/4 cup of water.
3/4 cup of water. You, Sam. That's right.
Okay, now if you've done this right,
I didn't.
which it looks like you did, then you can fold it like this.
And then being not stupid.
And then you want to lift it from this end and put it over here. Okay, make sure it covers the pie plate. See, you did good. Okay, and then you take your fingers and you got to go all the way around and make sure you press it, because you want to have a little overlap.
Well, there's not much overlap here. What if I just take...
You can take some from one spot and put it over there.
It's like a pot, you know? You just got to take the extra and you got to go... It's almost like building a snow castle, except not snow at all, and very flesh-like, and it's gross.
Yep, I'm getting it. Don't press too hard, but just enough to cover.
I'm pressing lightly.
Okay. Okay.
Looks like a pie.
Then you have to take your knife and do 3 or 4 or 5 little cuts into the dough so when it cooks, it won't be an airtight thing. You want it to be a
3,
little
4, or
release.
5?
Yeah, whatever you want. I'd do 4.
How big?
Just dot. Just enough so there's a hole.
Typical plus sign.
Okay. Then the butter.
Just lather it with butter, that's right. Just grab a stick of butter and go. Question, do I cut this away?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay.
Because when you put your top crust on there, then you can.
Another fatal flaw that Markiplier made in his video. Haha, I am 18 steps ahead of Mark L. Plier. Or Mark Fishbach. Cat, you stay away from these apples. I will eat you.
Just want to look.
I will become a Chinese man. I will become Chinaman. I will put you in oven.
We're only going to do like a half a tablespoon. And you want to put, kind of spread it all around in there, these little pieces. It's not going to coat the whole bottom, but it'll be enough to create the sauce
Sauce.
for the apples.
Yes.
And then you'll sprinkle some flour in here.
So, how much butter was that for the camera?
About a half a tablespoon.
A half a tablespoon.
Because you'll put the other half of the tablespoon on top of the apples when you're done. And you can do this.
Now, I know what you're thinking, people at home. You cut things weird, and you also cut things not safely. Well, I've cut myself before, not on purpose.
Not learned anything, huh?
And I still cut the same, but the only difference is I've learned from my mistake and cut even stupider now because I know how to cut stupider now that I've made mistakes.
Okay, and then you're gonna
punch it? I can do that.
Punch it. Then you're gonna put some flour in there, just a little.
Spritzed. I would call that spritzed with flour.
Okay, and then you're gonna go drain your apples.
By punching it?
In the sink.
There's no camera view for the sink. I'm sorry, faggots. But you can get the nice audio, probably not from here, but actually no.
Okay, shake them so you get as much water off as you can.
I don't get all the water off my hands, or goop off my hands. Okay.
Okay, put them on that paper towel right there that's on that, so it'll drain on there for a minute.
Oh, and by the way, those of you who see my arms and think, man, that guy's really white. No, I'm not really white. I'm vampiric white. Thank you very much.
Okay, if you want, you can dump all your spices into the bowl, remember I told you? And then you can sprinkle it on top of the apples.
Including these?
Yep.
The sugar and the brown sugar. Let's start with the small ones.
Because you're going to have to stir them all together. And make sure you get it all mixed good.
Oh!
What?
Oh. That was like a rock. I mean, just look at that. That looks wonderful. Pizza, pasta. problem? Master cook, baker. There's a problem that there's chunks like rocks.
What is it, the brown sugar?
Yeah.
Oh, they'll break up. Just get your hands in there. Smash them. With your big, strong hands.
My man hands, yes. I manhandle with man hands. In Manhattan. Oh yeah, by the way, you know old Chicago? One of the guys who I used to work with at Little Caesars knew someone from Little Chicago, and he said that they're paying really well there and hiring. I could work there, but should I? I'll probably open up my own restaurant now that I'm so masterful, even though I haven't even successfully made it yet. I will open up a bakery/restaurant, and it will be so good. I'll employ only my own family members there and a select few others. I'll probably hire, like, worthless pieces of scum to do the menial tasks, like bussers and stuff.
There's nothing better than a fresh donut.
Yes, we'll serve everything there. Fresh donuts, everything. Would you like to work at my establishment that I will definitely open? Not gonna answer my question?
Oh, yeah. You bet. If you're making fresh stuff, yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. I'll make sure that it's all kosher, it's all fresh, it's all scratch. Nobody really does scratch anymore.
No, they don't.
And like Master Baker over there, and probably Chef, said that my family has a recipe for homemade noodles. Spaghetti.
What?
Something like that.
Homemade what?
Noodles.
What?
Noodles.
Oh, yeah.
And if I get good feedback on this video, I will show you guys how to make homemade scratch noodles.
It's so easy.
And not only that, it's hard to come by a good scratch noodle recipe, and I have tasted the ones that my grandfather made, and oh, they were delicious. I've never had a better noodle in my life.
Except for your mother's.
No.
Well, I use that recipe for yours.
Well, how do you know he wasn't the one that created it? And obviously the creator is the best one at making it, so.
Okay.
Alright, now it's down to about the size of tiny little pebbles, so that should be good, right?
Yep. It'll all break down.
And just dump it in.
No, not yet. You gotta put your apples in there.
Okay. Dump them in.
Yeah, and you kind of want to arrange them a little bit. So
Make sure they're all flat.
Yeah, so that you don't have any pockets of air.
That would make sense. You're all learning something new today here at Havel Incorporated and or the Viking Gaming channel.
The pie crust is easy. It's just flour, shortening, and water.
Then what's the hard part?
It's just the work. You know, it's just peeling the apples, and none of this is hard.
No, but there are those little pansies out there like you, Timothy, who want to skip out on the work and, you know, just get a pie, buy it. But nothing beats a homemade pie. I've eaten a lot of pie in my time, store-bought pies and all that. And yeah, hold on, guys. I'm gonna need to pause the video because I desperately have to do something.
Eat something. So just give me
All right. Now, back to making pie. How high should I stack the slices? Like
Well,
almost coming out of the
You want it to be a mound.
a pile, not like even like a stack.
You want a mound.
Oh. You've been trying to get into the apples, ain't you?
He's been so curious.
I think he's just an apple cat. Cat of apples.
You're telling me you threw your peelings outside and that the squirrels love them.
Oh yeah. So after I peeled the apples, I threw them outside for the animals. I know, Granny Smith apples, sour, but squirrels took them, ate them. So I mean, hey, it's conservation. I mean, it works.
Feed the little guys.
Yeah, and it's winter right now. They need their sustenance. Without their sustenance, they can't go home to their squirrel families and be like, I ate my fill. Go get your own. I find that baking is relaxing, almost therapeutic, in a sense.
A lot of people do.
Well, I mean, in a sense it is very therapeutic. Because if you don't have a lot of time in your day-to-day life to, just sit and think, you can think while you're baking. Because baking isn't hard, it just takes time. And in that time, you can think about whatever you need to think about. It's like a sense deprivation tank, except without the deprivation.
What?
I think I'm laying this almost to look like a flower.
It's okay.
You know what? It just gives it art. In your opinion, what's the difference between open pies and closed pies?
Just a one crust or two crust pie.
Yes, but in your opinion, which one's better, harder to make, or what's the pros and cons?
Probably the one you're doing is the most time consuming.
But is it better?
No. I like Dutch apple pie is what it's called. Where you have that brown sugar and stuff on the top.
I don't think I've ever had a Dutch apple pie,
No.
but we might make one on the channel. We'll have to see in the future.
It's good.
So make sure you're subscribed. If you're not subscribed, I'll hang you by the toes. I'll give your fingertips paper cuts. It's over there.
She'll give it to you. You put it on the table. Oh, it is. Where did you get that at?
Oh, see? Yeah, that looks nice. But there's more apples.
Lucky you.
So my masterpiece will have to be dead now because yes. So the apples are gonna shrink, probably because of heat and losing moisture and it going into the spices, and the spices suck it up and make kind of a gooey juice sort of stuff. You know, nice, it's almost a syrup. That's what I imagine happening in the pie. While it's in the oven. The pie's probably screaming, "Why, oh Lord, why did you let me succumb to this cruel fate?" But, you know, it's just for our pleasure, our human pleasure of watching things burn alive.
You just make it the best an apple can be.
An apple pie.
Mm-mm. Yeah, I think I've heard of it. Mm-hmm.
Why is that prescription so expensive some days and then it ain't?
I don't know.
These cats.
That's ridiculous.
Every piece of apple must be used.
Yep.
Will not waste.